ADR. Promoting dialogue.
It's midday in Dakar, 1 o'clock in Lagos. Good afternoon and many thanks for staying tuned to West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and around the world on wadr.org. Welcome to Newslink. Here are the top stories. Mali's transitional president Goita dismisses Prime Minister Senegal and cabinet members. Nigerian Senate urged military to tackle emerging terror group.
This Wadr movement is a terrorist movement. They came from Mali. They control the whole of northern Mali. We need to nip this in the bud.
In Senegal, provisional official results to be announced this Thursday at 4 p.m. Ahead of December 7 elections in Ghana, authorities intercept a 40-foot container filled with ammunition.
Any person who therefore import firearms and ammunition without the requisite license or permit commits an offense.
Please stay tuned for details of these stories and more.
Here is a more edit with Newslink.
Many thanks for joining our broadcast. In this news edition, let's begin in Mali with the latest development as the country's junta-appointed Prime Minister Senegal has been dismissed alongside members of his government. The announcement was made on the evening of Wednesday through a presidential decree read on national television ORTM by the Secretary General of the Presidency. Elhaj Kader has more details in this report voiced by Eche Atiso.
This dismissal seemed inevitable. On Wednesday evening, the presidential decree was read on national television by Alphonsine Diawara, the Secretary General of the Presidency. Senegal Maiga is no longer the Prime Minister of Mali. This dismissal comes 4 days after he made highly critical remarks against the military authorities during a meeting on the June 5 movement Rally of Patriotic Forces, also known as M5 RFP. The now former Prime Minister of Mali criticized the military's management of the country. He stated that he was unaware of major decisions being made without government debate. He cited the example of the extension of the transition period, which was supposed to end on March 26, 2024. He said, and I quote, "The Prime Minister cannot learn from the media that the elections are postponed without discussions within the government," end of quote. General Assimi Goita, the president of the transition, appointed Senegal Maiga as Prime Minister on June 7, 2021. No further details have been provided at this stage.
Elhaj Kader filed the report and voiced by Echatis. Well, news just coming in has it that Major General Abdoulaye Mega appointed Prime Minister of Mali's transitional government. This appointment comes just an hour after the dismissal of Senegal from the same position following his virulent remarks against the transition authorities on a Saturday. Well, staying in Mali, the International Criminal Court ICC has sentenced Alassane Abdulaziz Mohamed Mahmoud to 10 years in prison for war crimes and crimes against humanity committed in Timbuktu between April 2012 and January 2013. Alassane still has 6 years to serve in ICC detention, as the time he has already spent in custody in The Hague will be deducted from his total sentence, according to the ICC presiding judge Kimberly Prost. Esuli Jeju has the details in this report and voiced by Gustin Colley.
On June 26, Al-Hassan Ak Abdul Aziz Ak Mohammed Ak Mahmoud, known as Al-Hassan, was found guilty of torture, mutilation, illegal trials, religious persecution, and other inhumane acts. Yesterday, Wednesday, the former head of the Islamic police in Timbuktu was sentenced to 10 years in prison by the International Criminal Court. The trial began 4 years ago with the prosecution presenting evidence followed by testimonies from victims and witnesses. Al-Hassan, former head of the Islamic police in Timbuktu, affiliated with the armed groups Ansar Dine and Al-Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb, was arrested in 2018 and transferred to the ICC on March 31 of the same year. An anonymous official who has been supporting the victims for several years believes that Al-Hassan should apologize to the victims and the entire population of Timbuktu.
There are people who complain that the time for condemnation is short. I don't see the time for condemnation. I only see the repair. I see that Al-Hassan was not accused of rape and violence when everything was done under his responsibility. Everything was done when he was responsible for the Islamic police. My concern is that the victims, the reason why he was sentenced, that these victims be repaired, and that, like Al-Fakir did, I only wish that Al-Hassan asked for forgiveness to the population of Timbuktu, because if he asks for forgiveness, it can heal the wounds, it can bring peace, and it can relieve the victims.
The time Al-Hassan has already spent in detention in The Hague will be deducted from his total sentence. However, the former head of the Islamic police in Timbuktu was acquitted of charges related to sexual crimes such as rape and sexual slavery. Both the prosecutor and defense have 30 days to appeal this decision. Al-Hassan's conviction is seen as a significant step in the fight against impunity for crimes committed in Mali. Representatives of the victims express satisfaction with the recognition of their suffering, although some regret the acquittals concerning sexual crimes.
That was a religious report voiced by Augustine Kuli. Well, let's tell you before we leave Mali that Major General Abdoulaye Maiga has been appointed the new Prime Minister of Mali's transitional government. This appointment comes just an hour after the dismissal of Sheikh Maiga from the same position, following his strong remarks against the transitional authorities on Saturday, 16th November 2024. Now let's head to Nigeria, where the Senate has urged the military to collaborate with local communities to establish early warning systems to detect future incursions by the new terror group, the Lakurawa. During plenary Wednesday, the lawmakers commended the military for prompt response to attacks by the terrorists in parts of the northwestern region. Usman Marin, Abuja report.
Following recent attacks by the group in parts of Kebbi State, which were repelled by the military, Senator Abdullahi Yahya from the state raised a motion drawing attention of his colleagues to the emerging threats.
The Senate is aware that a group of terrorists from neighboring Burkina Faso and Mali, known as Lakurawa, has infiltrated the country through the Nigeria-Niger border at Ilela, Tangaza, Silami local government areas of Sokoto State, and are there. And from there, attacking communities in Augi and Arewa local governments in Kebbi State.
Other lawmakers from the region, Adamu Aliru and Waziri Tamwal, urged the federal government to take urgent, decisive actions.
This Lakurawa movement is a terrorist movement. They came from Mali. They control the whole of northern Mali. We need to nip this in the bud. It's too serious for us to allow to take it lightly.
In his intervention, President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, thanked his colleagues, adding that security is a concern of all.
I thank all my colleagues for their contributions. The security of lives of Nigerians is important to all of us, and security belongs to all. So thank you for bringing this, and I hope these motions that we have made today and all the resolutions so far will help to forestall the new group from gaining prominence in the country.
The military authorities last week had informed of incursion into Nigeria by a new terror group known as the Lakurawa, who they say have taken root in northwestern states of Kebbi, Sokoto and Zamfara. They have, however, assured that everything is being done to contain their spread. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, Usman Umar reporting from Abuja.
In Burkina Faso, the government has frozen assets and economic resources of more than 100 individuals and legal entities for 6 months. Among them, the former president, Paul Henry Sandaogo Damiba, former ministers, journalists, soldiers, shepherds, farmers and traders, all accused of participating in terrorist activities. Christopher Tisho tells us more.
In addition to the freezing of their assets, the individuals concerned have been notified of a travel ban during this 6-month period, whether it is the former transitional president of Burkina Faso, Paul Henry Sandaogo Damiba, the former foreign minister, Djibril Basole, and Alpha Bari, journalists, or even several soldiers recently dismissed from the army. All have been accused of having participated in acts of terrorism or financing of terrorism. This list, which includes many prominent figures, also includes complete unknowns, such as shepherds, Quranic teachers and students, breeders, farmers, Burkinabe and Malian traders, accused of terrorist criminal associations, combat training, complicit in terrorist acts, or illegal possession of firearms. In addition, 2 terrorist groups are targeted by these sanctions: the Group for the Support of Islam and Muslims and the Islamic State in the Greater Sahel. According to the order signed by the Minister of Economy and Finance, Abubakar Nakanabo, this freezing of assets concerns everything that could be used to obtain funds, goods or services serving terrorism. This measure, which came into force on Tuesday, November 19, could be renewed for another 6 months once it expires.
Christopher Teacher filed that report. Now let's bring you some stories from Senegal and Ghana. But we'll start in Senegal, where authorities say the National Vote Counting Commission will proceed this Thursday from 4 p.m. to the official proclamation of the provisional result of Sunday's early legislative elections. The meeting is scheduled to take place in Room 4 of the Dakar courthouse. Some 7.3 million Senegalese were called to the polls on Sunday to elect 165 deputies, including 15 responsible for representing the country's citizens living abroad. 41 lists of parties or coalitions of parties took part in this early legislative election. 112 seats are filled by majority list voting. The list that comes first in each of the country's 46 departments obtains all the seats at stake. That is a total of 112 seats distributed according to the demographics and economic weight of each electoral district. 53 seats are filled by proportional representation. The PASEF lists, led by Prime Minister Ousmane Sonko, obtained a large majority of seats in the National Assembly according to the result published by the Departmental Vote Counting Commission. Now let's head to Ghana, where the Coalition of Domestic Election Observers, CODEL, in its latest report say that the political atmosphere remains generally peaceful in Ghana as the country approaches a keenly contested 2024 general election. CODEL, in a press statement dated November 18 and titled "CODEL calls on election stakeholders to intensify civic and voter education, stop vote buying, abuse of incumbency, and maintain peaceful and issue-based campaigns ahead of the December 7 elections." According to the coalition, the political atmosphere remains generally peaceful across the 97 constituencies observed by CODEL long-term observers, LTOs. No incidents of violence, intimidation, or harassment specifically targeting women was noted. In summary, it said that it had observed improvement in voter education efforts by the Electoral Commission of Ghana, continuous domination of the political campaign seen by the New Patriotic Party (NPP) and the National Democratic Congress (NDC), differential focus on issues in the campaigns by the NPP and the NDC, a generally peaceful political climate in the observed constituencies, and instances of incumbency abuse, including the use of state resources such as public vehicles and government-owned equipment for campaign purposes, were noted. Now in Ghana again, the Customs Division of the country's Revenue Authority, GRA, has impounded a 40-foot container at the Tema port after uncovering a cache of weapons hidden in suitcases. According to the GRA, the interception carried out on November 4, 2024, followed extensive investigations by its intelligence and preventive unit. WDL's Accra correspondent Nadine Tete reports.
The container, numbered MDU 4496951, had been shipped from the United States and falsely declared as containing vehicles and personal effects. Upon inspection, officials discovered 53 pistols, 74 magazines, and 65 live rounds ammunition. Confirming the development, Commissioner of Customs of the Ghana Revenue Authority, Brigadier General Zibrim Ayorogo, reveals that arrests have been made and investigations are underway to determine the shipment's origins and intended recipients. He further cautioned that importing ammunition without proper authorization is a criminal offense and will be met with the full force of the law.
It is worthy of note that all importers requiring to import firearms and ammunition into the country must first obtain license and permit from the Ministry of Interior before the import. Any person who therefore import firearms and ammunition without the requisite valid license or permit commits an offense.
Reacting to the news, security analyst Professor Kwesi Yenin said such developments have become common, especially in election years in the country. He has called for the full prosecution of the culprits.
From 1990, almost every year when we are heading towards elections, ammunition guns are seized, people are arrested, but we hardly ever hear of the prosecutions of these people. So this is business as usual, but kudos to the GRA and their intelligence team. The challenge for them is ensuring that the agents, the person, the consignees, or whoever are put before a court of competent jurisdiction, the law book thrown at them to serve as a deterrent to other people.
The suspects, including the agents and consignees, have been granted bail as investigations continue. Meanwhile, the Customs Division has reiterated its commitment to protecting Ghana's borders and preventing the illegal importation of arms and other contraband. For WADR, Nadidi Teti, Accra.
And back in Senegal, the 33 days to revitalize vaccination in Africa campaign officially closed following its grand finale, which took place in the capital Dakar from November 19 to 20, 2024. The campaign, which kicked off on October 24, was organized by NIEL, an international advocacy, campaigns and public affairs firm in collaboration with civil society organizations from 6 African countries, including Senegal, Burkina Faso, Nigeria, Sierra Leone, and the Democratic Republic of Congo. As Erika reports, the event focused on raising awareness about the significance of vaccination and highlighting its indispensable role in safeguarding public health.
Vaccination remains one of modern medicine's most potent tools against infectious diseases. However, West and Central Africa have seen high rates of preventable deaths in children due to low childhood vaccination coverage. According to estimates, 6 million of the 18 million children born in these regions each year are deprived of life-saving vaccines during their first year. Valerie Traore, founder and executive director of NIEL, says the campaign is a call to draw attention to vaccine-preventable diseases.
From October 24th to November 20th is a period where there are several dates that are important for vaccination. Those are all important days. So 33 days is about really focusing on vaccinations during this time and ensuring that the world, be it civil society, influencers, regular citizens, governments, focus on what this means for health and immunization.
Ike Ogbonna is a Nigerian film actor and producer.
I just remember I came back from school one day and it felt like a normal day, and I was lying down. I could not breathe anymore. I had to crawl to my parents' room and open the door, and I couldn't speak because there was no air in my left lobe or right lobe. Someone rushed me to the hospital. I had the intravenous injection, and that saved me. So if they knew about preventive vaccinations against pneumonia, which so many people do not even know about, I could have had it and I wouldn't have even had to have pneumonia in the first place.
On how this initiative will impact vaccination coverage and accessibility in the sub-region, Valerie Traore says,
this campaign is really about debunking myths around vaccination. We have seen quite a lot of fallback in routine immunization since COVID. The conversation around COVID has sort of overshadowed every conversation around just basic routine immunization.
The grand finale of the campaign saw gathered health advocates from foundations, NGOs, research institutes, and notable celebrities from Senegal, Burkina Faso, Nigeria, and the Democratic Republic of Congo, who engaged in a face-off to win the title of vaccination champion.
Erika filed that report. You're listening to Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio 94.9 FM Dakar. Here is a reminder of the top stories. Mali's transitional president Goita dismisses Prime Minister Senegal and cabinet members. Nigerian Senate urged military to tackle the emerging terror group. In Senegal, provisional official results of the legislative election to be announced this Thursday at 4 p.m. Ahead of December 7 elections in Ghana, authorities intercept a 40-foot container filled with ammunition. And still ahead in the news, we do have a guest interview, the press review, and sports news. Please stay with us.
You are listening to West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal.
We are streaming live on WADR.org, YouTube, and Facebook. Now, the West African sub-region is experiencing rapid economic growth, but digitalization is outspacing the implementation of cybersecurity laws. The rise in cyber attacks, which range from hacking to more severe forms of cyber terrorism, threatens critical infrastructure and poses significant risks to individuals, businesses, and the region's socio-economic development. To tackle these challenges, UNDP, through the Give One Project Digital Skills Academy, in partnership with Concordia University, has embarked on empowering youth and women to lead in cybersecurity. The 5-year program, starting with an event on Thursday, November 21, aims to train 25,000 young cybersecurity experts across West and Central Africa. The director of UNDP Sub-Regional Hub for West and Central Africa, and Joya Tikum, has been speaking with WDR regarding the project.
We've been engaged over the past 2 years in exploring how we can help not just our governments in the region, but we can help spur a new group of cybersecurity experts, made up of young people, to be able to help advance and securitize the digitalization process that is happening across the region. I'm sure you're aware that whether it's in agriculture, it's in e-commerce, it's in climate, perhaps the fastest propeller for development and growth in West and Central Africa and by and large in Africa. To tap into the fourth industrial revolution, the continent needs to have an army of cybersecurity experts that can ensure that as we leverage from this new technology, we are not exposing ourselves to attacks, we are not exposing our systems to foreign invasion that can have a disastrous impact on how countries take advantage of this industrial revolution. So this program we launched, we are hoping that we would train a sufficient cohort of cybersecurity expert young people below the ages of 35 in the 24 countries that we cover in West and Central Africa, and that together with Concordia University in Canada, the Give One Foundation here in Senegal, we would be able to train a cohort of experts that would then replicate these trainings in the different countries and help create this big mass of 25,000 young people who can serve in government, in private sector, in the markets.
Joya Tikum is the director of the UNDP Sub-Regional Hub for West and Central Africa.
This is the newspaper review. Stay abreast and find out what the top stories are in your country.
This is the newspaper review.
The newspaper review.
Now we head back to Accra to join Nadide Tete for the newspaper review.
I start off with the Daily Graphic newspaper. Economy on recovery course, President Akufo-Addo says so. Customs seizes firearms at Tema Port. And President Akufo-Addo appoints Herbert Krapper as Energy Minister and National Service Authority and military to increase livestock production. That's it for the Daily Graphic newspaper. The Daily Guide newspaper front page. Election 2024. You are safe with us. Police assures media. NDC thugs attack NPP Zango team. And Cheddar makes inroads on constituencies tour. The Anchor newspaper front page, NDC and NPP accuse each other of plotting mayhem. Exactly 16 days to the December 7 polls. Also here, Minister denies involvement in Mushosho rice scandal. And now to the Chronicle newspaper front page, Election 2024, police promise to protect journalists, soldiers on land guard duties in Damfa. That's the question being asked by the Chronicle newspaper. And the final story here on the front page of the Chronicle newspaper, free SHS, 18,000 cedis spent on each student annually. Now to the Daily Analyst front page. Akufo-Addo inaugurates new Bank of Ghana headquarters, and government's Galamsey fight is ineffective. That's according to Tony Obin, former head of the Minerals Commission. And final story here, our climate is at a breaking point, UN chief warns. The Daily Post newspaper now, EC has appointed known NPP members as their officials. Akando reveals Akando is the NDC MP for Dwabuso. Still with the Daily Post newspaper, Professor Nana Jane condemns government for knowingly giving expired food to secondary schools, and Ghana faces load shedding ahead of IPP shutdown threats. So that'll be it for the newspaper review segment. It's back to you.
Many thanks, Nadide, for the newspaper review.
Politics, analysis on major news, social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
Well, in this segment, we stay in Ghana, where the Customs Division of the Revenue Authority JARI has impounded a 40-foot container at the Tema port after uncovering a cache of weapons hidden in suitcases. According to the JARI, the interception carried out on November 4th followed intensive investigations by its intelligence and preventive unit. In this interview with WDL, Adams Bona, a Ghanaian security consultant, speaks about the implications this seizure could have on the safety of Ghana's election, particularly when the main opposition party, NDC, is accusing the ruling party NPP of plotting to rig the December polls.
In Ghana, various research has pointed to a situation where some criminals are using Ghana as a transit point to sometimes attempt to smuggle weapons through this country into some neighboring countries, which is not the best. Suffice to say that we have an impending elections and there are allegations and counter-allegations of the incumbent government party, the MPP, plotting to use violence, and then the incumbent political party that forms the government is also alleging that the biggest opposition party, the National Democratic Congress, is also training hoodlums to foment trouble. And so as far as the security of the country is concerned when it comes to elections, it falls within the remit of the Inspector General of Police. And he has been very clear that this year's elections, he's putting all the measures to ensure that the elections would, go on peacefully. There won't be any violence. If there is violence at all, it would be minimal.
This is coming after months when citizens, including security analysts and experts like yourself, raised alarm about some militia groups allegedly carrying out training activities in the northern and eastern regions of Ghana. How does this seizure of ammunition tie in with those early reports of militia training in some region of the country?
It goes to confirm sometimes some of these allegations of militia training and training of people who could be used to foment trouble.
All right, that was our guest, Adams Bona, the Ghanaian security analyst. So, you get the full version of that interview in a subsequent bulletin. And it's time for sports with Sankle Janko.
Hello, a warm welcome and thank you for joining us. The Confederation of African Football, CAF, has unveiled the list of nominees for the women's category of the CAF Awards 2024. The CAF Awards 2024 will be held on 16 December 2024 in Marrakesh, Morocco. Top 10 players have been shortlisted for the coveted CAF Women's Player of the Year award, ranging from world-class footballers plying their trade both on the continent as well as abroad. For the first time in so many years, Nigerian superstar Asisat Asowola failed to make the cut. Some of the star players shortlisted include Nigerian international Chimaka Nadozi and Rasidat Ajibad, South Africa's Tembi Katlana, Barbara Banda of Zambia, and Rashid Kundananji. The CAF Interclub Women's Player of the Year is also an exciting category to look out for, with 6 of the 10 nominees currently vying for the ongoing CAF Women's Champions League title in Morocco. The recognition of the best coach in the women's football will also be recognized at the glittering ceremony evening. The winners of each category will be determined through votes from a diverse panel, including the CAF Technical Committee, media professionals, and the head coaches and captains of member associations, as well as clubs participating in the group stages of CAF in the club competitions. The CAF Awards 2024 cover the period between January 2024 and October 2024. And that's it for sports. It's back to you.
And we've come to the end of this edition of Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening, and many thanks to Christian Mukwida and Maldaju for the technical support. Do connect with us on all of our social media platforms, X, formerly Twitter, Instagram at WDR News, and Facebook, West Africa Democracy Radio English Service. Coming up at the bottom of the hour is our flagship environment program and Viroscope. I am Imo Edet. Good afternoon.
And many thanks to you.